What you're about to hear will change everything you thought you knew about the biggest names in hip-hop. 50 Cent isn't holding back this time. He's taking aim at Lloyd Banks and Jim Jones and the fallout. It's chaotic, shocking, and downright explosive. Behind the flashy music, the videos, and the public personas, there's a war, raging a battle for power, respect. And the ultimate bag? Imagine the tension backstage, the whispers in the studio, the hidden messages in songs, and the calls that never hit the airwaves. 50 Cent claims Lloyd Banks fumbled the bag, that Jim Jones tried to steal the spotlight, and now the streets fans and the internet are watching it all unfold in real time. This isn't just a foodits, a chess game where loyalty is tested, reputations are on the line, and only the smartest survive. You'll see the alliances shift, the betrayals exposed, and the secrets that were supposed to stay locked behind closed doors revealed. Every move, every comment, every subtle clapback has led to this breaking point. So buckle up. Get ready for the drama, the receipts, the shockwaves, and the moments that fans have been waiting for. Because by the end of this story, you'll see why the hip-hop world will never look at 50 Cent, Lloyd Banks, or Jim Jones the same way again. And trust me, what happens next will leave you speechless. The stage was set. The lights, the cameras, the fans, all unaware of the storm brewing behind the scenes. But in the world of hip-hop, nothing stays quiet for long. What you're about to hear isn't just gossips, a full-blown revelation. A look behind the velvet ropes into a conflict that had been quietly escalating for months. 50 Cent, the man who built his empire on sharp wit, business instincts, and an unflinching edge, had finally reached his breaking point. And the targets. Two of his closest associates, two men he once trusted. Two names that had defined an era. Lloyd Banks and Jim Jones. It started in the studio, where the air is usually filled with beats, rhymes, and energy, but lately, tension had thickened the atmosphere. Sources close to the situation described a scene that was almost cinematic. Lloyd Banks arriving late, texts ignored, schedules misaligned, and opportunities slipping through fingers that were once considered golden. 50 Cent noticed. He saw a pattern, a misstep here, a missed deal there, and when a critical collaboration fell apart, he knew it wasn't just bad luck, it was a fumble. A miscalculation that could cost millions. Then there was Jim Jones, ever ambitious, always chasing the spotlight. But ambition has a cost, especially when it clashes with loyalty. Jones had been maneuvering, subtly, quietly, trying to carve out his own dominance, nudging himself into positions that were traditionally 50 Cent's domain. It wasn't overt, at least not at first. Just a comment here, a post there, enough to make insiders raise eyebrows. But 50 Cent noticed. Always notices. The man built his empire on noticing, on calculating risk, on turning moments into power plays. And that's when the storm hit. Social media, music platforms, and industry insiders began picking up whispers. Hints of tension, and eventually outright claims. The posts, the tweets, the subtle jabs in songs, they weren't random. They were a warning, a signal that something had shifted. Fans who thought they were seeing playful competition were actually witnessing the early sparks of a conflict that could shake the foundations of one of hip-hop's most storied alliances. But what made this explosive wasn't just the business missteps or the subtle jockeying for position. It was the betrayal. In hip-hop, trust is currency, often more valuable than money itself. And when 50 Cent realized that Lloyd Banks had fumbled the bag literally, letting opportunities slip that could have expanded their collective empire, and that Jim Jones was quietly trying to reposition himself as the star, the reaction was immediate, visceral. 50 Cent, known for his public calls, his viral reactions, and his ruthless efficiency in exposing rivals, went on the offensive. Not just in private, not just in boardrooms, but in ways that made the industry stop and pay attention. The first public signs were small, almost casual tweets that seemed like jokes, comments in interviews that seemed playful. But the people in the know recognized the code. Every word, every tone, every seemingly casual post was a calculated strike. And behind those posts, behind those interviews, were hours of planning, discussions, and strategy. 50 Cent had decided that the time for subtlety was over. The stakes were too high. His legacy, his brand, and his respect demanded clarity. It demanded exposure. Fans started noticing the tension in the tracks. In collaborations that never materialized, in public appearances that were awkwardly orchestrated. The internet exploded with speculation. Who was snitching? Who was trying to steal the spotlight? Who had betrayed the empire? And in the middle of it all, 50 Cent's moves were precise, almost surgical. Every statement, every post, every subtle dig was a lesson in strategy. A masterclass in turning insider knowledge into public leverage. This wasn't just a feud. This was a dismantling of illusions. The public began to see cracks that were invisible to most alliances tested, reputations challenged, and a kingpin of the game calling out both friend and foe in one sweeping motion. And then the receipts came. Hidden contracts, unheard conversations, unposted footage. Insider accounts, things that confirmed what everyone had feared but few could articulate. Lloyd Banks had indeed missed critical opportunities. Deals that could have been worth millions were left to wither. Jim Jones had been maneuvering behind the scenes, making moves that suggested he wanted the crown. Even if that meant walking over 50 Cent's shadow. Each revelation was like a match striking flammable paper, sparking a chain reaction that fans, media, and insiders couldn't ignore. But it wasn't just the financial losses or the ambitions that made this story extraordinary. It was the emotional weight, loyalty, respect, friendship values that 50 Cent had always broadcasted as sacred were suddenly in question. Could you trust someone who fumbled millions? Could you respect someone who maneuvered behind your back while keeping a smile on your face? These were the questions burning in 50 Cent's mind. And by extension, in the minds of every fan who had followed the saga. This was no longer about music. It was about honor, reputation, and the raw, unfiltered reality of what happens when ambition collides with loyalty. And as the first part of this drama unfolds, the stage is set for the next moves. Will Lloyd Banks attempt to redeem himself? To prove that the fumble was a mistake, not a betrayal? Will Jim Jones double down, trying to solidify the power grab he's initiated? Or will 50 Cent continue to expose, escalate, and dominate the narrative, ensuring that the story is told on his terms? The tension is thick. The stakes are higher than ever. And the industry is watching with bated breath. One thing is certain. This isn't a story that ends quietly. The fallout has only just begun. And for those watching closely, the drama, the secrets, and the explosive reveals are far from over. The world will see just how far 50 Cent is willing to go. And the chaos that Lloyd Banks and Jim Jones didn't anticipate is about to hit the public eye. The fallout was immediate and unrelenting. As soon as 50 Cent's messages hit social media, the internet ignited like a wildfire. Fans, critics, insiders all scrambled to dissect every word, every post, every subtle shade thrown in interviews. The feeds were flooded with speculation, screenshots, clips, and heated debates. Hip-hop forums became war zones. The comment sections erupted with questions that no one had answers for. Did Lloyd really fumble the bag? Is Jim Jones trying to take over 50 Cent's empire? How deep does this betrayal go? It was more than just digital chatter. It was cultural hysteria. Memes spread faster than fire, each one a distorted reflection of the tension between the three artists. Some painted Lloyd Banks as clumsy, a man who couldn't hold on to what was his. Others framed Jim Jones as cunning, quietly scheming while keeping a facade of loyalty. And through it all, 50 Cent remained the orchestrator. The puppeteer of chaos, carefully revealing the truths he wanted the public to see. Meanwhile, in the industry itself, the tremors were felt. Managers, collaborators, and even rival artists reached out behind the scenes, whispering, analyzing, and trying to understand the implications. A source close to the situation described studio sessions that had been ice cold, with tension thicker than any beat. Producers who had worked with the trio for years admitted they were walking on eggshells, unsure who would be next to shift loyalties or make a move. And then came the financial shockwaves. Deals that were supposed to elevate all parties now hung in the balance. Contracts were revisited. Promoters questioned commitments. Brand partnerships paused negotiations. Each revelation from 50 Cent wasn't just a story, it was a direct hit to the bottom line. Lloyd Banks, once considered a reliable partner, was now under scrutiny. Jim Jones, ambitious and opportunistic, found that every move he made was now under the public microscope. And in the middle of it all, 50 Cent's reputation as a strategist, a kingpin, and a master of the game only solidified further. Fans weren't the only ones reacting. Celebrities weighed in, some subtly, others overtly. Tweets from artists like Snoop Dogg, Joel Santana, and others hinted at taking sides, while commentators on music shows dissected the scandal with the precision of a forensic team. Every lyric, every appearance, every post from the three men was now interpreted as a move in this ongoing chess game. The stakes had escalated from personal betrayal to industry-wide drama. Social media also became a courtroom of public opinion. Clips of old interviews were resurrected. Tweets from years ago suddenly felt like confessions. Lyrics from past albums were scrutinized for hidden meanings. And then came the viral videos. Fans and insiders pieced together footage, side by side, comparisons and studio sessions, attempting to decode the intentions behind every action. Some argued Lloyd Banks had no malicious intent, that the fumble was human error. Others insisted it was a calculated misstep, an opportunity lost by negligence. And Jim Jones, his subtle maneuvers were now being labeled as audacious power plays. Amid all this chaos, the personal toll became clear. Lloyd Banks began receiving direct messages from fans, some supportive, others venomous. Pressure mounted as public perception started to define his career. Jim Jones, who had always thrived on attention, found himself scrutinized in a way that was uncomfortable even for him. 50 Cent, ever the tactician, remained above the fray publicly, but calculated every private move. Sources revealed he held strategy meetings with his inner circle, carefully deciding when to release information and how to escalate the tension for maximum impact. And the media circus didn't stop there. Radio hosts dissected the scandal minute by minute, creating special segments devoted to every revelation. Podcasts became battlegrounds for opinions, with hosts inviting guests to speculate about the long-term implications of 50 Cent's explosive expose. It wasn't just entertainment, it was an event. Hip-hop as a culture and industry was witnessing a modern-day power struggle unfold in real time. A drama that blurred the lines between business, friendship, and betrayal. But there were twists even insiders didn't see coming. Anonymous sources leaked that during a private studio session, tensions between Lloyd Banks and Jim Jones nearly boiled over. Words were exchanged, threats were implied. And while 50 Cent wasn't in the room, it was clear he had anticipated the breakdown. Every move he made was designed to ensure the truth came out in a way that protected his empire while exposing the cracks in those he once trusted. And yet, the story wasn't just about business or betrayal, it was deeply personal. Those close to the situation revealed the emotional impact on all three men. Lloyd Banks, once a confident, composed artist, was visibly shaken. Jim Jones, whose bravado often masked insecurity, faced the reality that ambition without caution can backfire. And 50 Cent, who had always been the orchestrator, now carried the weight of controlling the narrative, balancing truth, and ensuring his empire remained unchallenged. The public, meanwhile, had a front-row seat. Clips from interviews, snippets of lyrics, and behind-the-scenes footage created a mosaic of chaos, tension, and drama. Fans debated endlessly, taking sides and predicting the next move. Social media was ablaze with hashtags, memes, and viral commentary. Every revelation added fuel to the fire, and the industry collectively held its breath. The stakes had never been higher. Lloyd Banks had to navigate public perception while regaining trust. Jim Jones had to reconsider his strategies as the world watched every maneuver. And 50 Cent? He remained untouchable, the kingpin in a game of his own design, ready to reveal even more in the coming chapters. The storm was far from over. The tension, the betrayal, and the drama had reached a boiling point. Begins the confrontation. Will escalate beyond anything fans or insiders could have imagined. Loyalties will be tested. Secrets will be revealed. And the world will witness a climax that could redefine hip-hop alliances forever. The tension had reached a fever pitch. What began as whispers behind closed studio doors had erupted into a fordo, and erupted into a public spectacle, a dramatic showdown that no one could ignore. Fans across the globe were glued to screens, dissecting every move, every post. Every shade thrown between 50 Cent, Lloyd Banks, and Jim Jones. And now, the moment of ultimate reckoning had arrived. It started subtly, tweets that weren't subtle at all, Instagram posts dripping with pointed captions, and leaked behind-the-scenes clips showing body language that spoke louder than any words. Lloyd Banks, previously considered steady and reliable, now found himself on the defensive. Every comment, every public appearance was scrutinized. Insiders reported he was pacing in studio hallways, calling advisors, trying to contain what was rapidly spiraling out of control. Even casual observers could see it. His confidence, once unshakable, was cracking under the weight of public scrutiny. Jim Jones, on the other hand, seemed almost energized by the chaos. To him, this was an opportunity. Every leaked post, every viral clip, every fan debate was a stepping stone in his quest to assert dominance. But there was a subtle anxiety behind the bravado. Those close to him revealed late-night meetings where strategies were discussed, moves calculated, and contingencies prepared. He knew that 50 Cent's exposure was surgical, precise, and devastating. One misstep, and the narrative could turn against him completely. Meanwhile, 50 Cent, ever the mastermind, controlled the narrative with an almost tyrannical precision. His public comments were measured but fiery, each one landing like a hammer, exposing missteps, failures, and opportunistic tendencies. But he didn't stop there. Private leaks, carefully timed posts, and insider revelations created a storm that no one could escape. Fans debated endlessly. Analysts dissected every line, and the media fed the frenzy like a wildfire. The industry was holding its collective breath. As the fallout continued, the personal stakes became increasingly apparent. Lloyd Banks struggled with public perception, trying to rebuild trust while grappling with his own embarrassment. Jim Jones realized that ambition without subtlety could backfire in ways even he hadn't anticipated. And 50 Cent? He operated from a position of power, orchestrating moves that ensured his empire remained untouchable while keeping the world watching, captivated and addicted to the unfolding drama. Protests weren't physical, but they were everywhere online. Battles, social media campaigns, trending hashtags, and fan-driven debates that kept the story alive 24/7. Memes labeled Lloyd Banks as the fumbled bag, while Jim Jones was alternately the opportunist and the strategist, and 50 Cent. He became the undisputed conductor of chaos, masterfully turning every leak, every shade, and every revelation into a viral event. And yet, the story took a personal turn that no one expected. Close sources revealed late-night studio sessions where emotions ran high. Lloyd Banks confronted Jim Jones in a heated exchange, a moment that could have easily turned physical. Words were sharp, accusations fired like bullets, and the tension in the room was palpable. 50 Cent, even though not present, had anticipated this escalation. Insiders suggested he had set the stage, letting the conflict reach its boiling point. so the world could witness every unraveling layer of loyalty, betrayal, and ambition. Then came the public confrontation, a live appearance that would be replayed endlessly. Cameras caught the subtle glances, the tense silences, the barely concealed frustration. Fans and media analysts dissected body language, tone, and reactions, turning the event into a global spectacle. It was raw, unfiltered drama, a moment where reputation, ego, and legacy collided in real time. And yet there was a revelation even deeper. Sources revealed hidden alliances, whispered plans, and financial maneuvering that had been operating in the shadows. Deals were renegotiated, studio collaborations were paused, brand partnerships were reconsidered. The fallout wasn't just emotional, it was economic. Every move had consequences. Every misstep had a ripple effect. And in this high-stakes game, 50 Cent remained a master strategist, anticipating reactions, orchestrating events, and revealing truths that others tried to bury. By now, the public had a complete view of the drama: Lloyd Banks' mistakes, Jim Jones' opportunism, and 50 Cent's calculated exposure. But the climax wasn't just about reputations, it was about power. Who controlled the narrative? Who held influence over the culture, the fans, the industry? And who would rise or fall in the aftermath? Every fan, insider, and celebrity watching knew that this was a turning point in hip-hop history. The final escalation came during a studio release, a collaboration that had been teased for weeks. Lloyd Banks and Jim Jones were both scheduled, but tension hung in the air. Even producers admitted the atmosphere was electric, charged with unspoken threats and potential confrontations. And as the session began, it became clear nothing would ever be the same. Every lyric, every verse, every delivery carried double meaning. Hidden messages, subliminal calls, and references to the ongoing feud turned the studio into a battlefield of words and influence. Fans dissected the track immediately. Social media exploded. Clips went viral, each one dissecting lines, eye movements, and reactions. The world witnessed history in the making, a collision of talent, ego, and strategic brilliance. Lloyd Banks, for all his skill, struggled to maintain composure. Jim Jones, for all his cunning, realized the stakes were higher than ever. And 50 Cent. He had orchestrated every move, every leak, every word, ensuring that the story unfolded exactly as he intended by the end. One truth was undeniable: loyalty and ambition in the music industry are fragile. Power and influence can shift in an instant. And 50 Cent, once again, had proven why he remains a master tactician, a king of strategy, and a force to be reckoned with. Betrayal, exposure, mastery. Every fan, every insider, every artist watching knew this wasn't just another drama, was a blueprint for power, influence, and survival in the world of hip-hop. As the dust settled, questions lingered. Could Lloyd Banks recover from the fumbled opportunities? Would Jim Jones recalibrate and regain control? Or had ambition finally outpaced caution? And 50 Cent. He had revealed truths, exposed weaknesses, and asserted dominance. But what would come next? The world waited, captivated, knowing the story wasn't over. It was only evolving, and the next chapter promised even more shock, drama, and revelation. The stage was set for history. Every move, every decision, every line of a verse now carried meaning beyond music. Fans would debate it, analysts would study it, and insiders would continue to whisper behind closed doors. But one fact remained clear: 50 Cent had won the battle of strategy, narrative. And influence and hip-hop would never be the same again. The war had reached its climax, but the echoes would reverberate forever. Betrayal, exposure, power, and legacy intertwined in a drama the world would replay for years. And one truth is undeniable: in the game of hip-hop, the stakes are higher than ever, and 50 Cent has proven, once again, that he plays to win. The story you just witnessed isn't just dramas, a masterclass in power, ambition, and betrayal. Lloyd Banks fumbled the bag. Jim Jones tried to step into the spotlight. And 50 Cent. He exposed it all with surgical precision, showing the world who really controls the narrative in hip-hop. This isn't entertainment. This is a real-life lesson in loyalty strategy. And consequences, and it's happening right before our eyes. Now, we want to hear from you. What do you think? Should Lloyd Banks have played his cards differently? Did Jim Jones overreach, or was he simply caught in the crossfire? Could 50 Cent have executed his plan any better? Or was this a flawless display of dominance? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because your voice matters. And the conversation doesn't end with us. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button right now. You won't see this kind of insider breakdown anywhere else. Only here do we take you behind the velvet ropes, behind the leaks, and behind the battles that shake the industry to its core. Turn on notifications because the next wave of revelations, feuds, and explosive hip-hop stories is coming, and you'll want to be front and center when it hits. Share this video with anyone who lives for the drama, the strategy, and the unfiltered truth. Show your friends, your crew, or anyone who's ever wondered what really goes on when the cameras aren't rolling. This is your chance to be part of the conversation while the story is still unfolding. Remember this: betrayal, exposure, mastery. This isn't the end of the saga, it's only the beginning. Hip-hop's power plays are relentless, and the players don't rest. Stay tuned, stay sharp, and most importantly, stay informed, because the game is bigger than music, bigger than fame, and bigger than any one artist. The story isn't ending, it's only beginning.